Opening scene. The silent icon. The camera lingers on a photograph. Her face half in shadow, her eyes heavy with something unspoken. Tatjana Patitz, a woman who carried silence like an ornament. In a world where beauty screamed for attention, hers whispered instead. Even today, when the word supermodel conjures flashbulbs and spectacle, her presence feels different. She did not chase fame. She did not bend for the spotlight. She stood apart, mysterious, restrained, untouchable. The beginning, from Germany to Sweden to California, her story begins far from the glamour of Paris or New York. Born in Hamburg in 1966 to a German father and an Estonian mother, Tatjana's childhood was shaped by movement. First Germany, then Sweden. Later, the wide-open landscapes of California. Her mother had been a dancer, her father a man of discipline. Between them, Tatjana absorbed a mix of elegance and reserve. Unlike many of the girls who would one day stand beside her, she didn't grow up dreaming of fashion covers. She grew up with horses, with nature, with a kind of solitude that would never leave her. The elite model contest, a chance encounter with destiny, fate came disguised as a contest. In 1983, at just 17 years old, she entered the elite model look competition. She didn't win first place. She didn't even come second. She placed third. But something about her stayed in the room after she left. There was no obvious glamour, no loud charisma. Only a quiet intensity that puzzled the judges and made them remember her. Third place was enough. Elite flew her to Paris, where a different kind of battle began. Paris years, the struggle to be seen. Paris in the early 1980s was the epicenter of fashion, but it was also unforgiving. Agencies wanted loud personalities, marketable faces, pliable models. Tatjana was none of those things. She was tall, elegant, but reserved. She didn't flirt with the camera, she stared through it, as though waiting for it to understand her. Work came slowly, and doubts crept in. She was a stranger in a city that demanded she sell herself more loudly than she wanted to. Yet there was something undeniable in her stillness. A rare quality that only a few would recognize. And soon, one man with a camera, Peter Lindbergh, would break through. Working with Peter Lindbergh, every model needs a moment. For Tatjana, that moment came through the eyes of Peter Lindbergh. He didn't just see a face. He saw depth. He once said that Tatjana had a secret in her eyes, something unknowable, something you couldn't manufacture. Through his lens, her quietness became power. Unlike other photographers who demanded exaggeration, Lindbergh embraced her stillness. He gave her room to breathe, and in that space, she became unforgettable. The original supermodel, Vogue's famous cover, January 1990. British Vogue unveiled a cover that would change fashion history. Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell, Linda Evangelista, Christy Turlington, and alongside them, Tatjana Patitz. 5 women, 5 archetypes, but it was Tatjana who radiated an air of mystery, almost as if she didn't belong there and yet belonged more than anyone else. The same year, she appeared in George Michael's Freedom 90 video, moving in rhythm with the icons of her era. She was no longer just another face in Paris. She was part of the supermodel phenomenon. Her unique aura, the different supermodel, but Tatjana was never like the others. She didn't chase headlines. She didn't court controversy. She didn't smile for the sake of charm. Her presence was elusive, more European than Hollywood, more spiritual than commercial. While Naomi commanded, Cindy seduced, Linda transformed, Tatjana remained quiet, still, enigmatic. She carried herself like a painting in a gallery, not demanding your attention, but holding it once you looked. The inner world, quiet rebellion against the industry, yet behind the recognition was a subtle rebellion. She disliked the noise of fashion, the constant demand to perform, to sell, to shape herself into what others wanted. She would give the camera her beauty, but not her soul. In an industry obsessed with visibility, she embraced invisibility. And that choice set her apart, admired by some, misunderstood by many. Major campaigns, the The face of elegance, she stood before the camera, and the world bent its gaze. Chanel, Calvin Klein, Valentino, Jill Sander. Her image traveled across continents, folded into glossy magazines, pasted onto billboards, whispered through shop windows. But unlike so many faces of fashion, hers did not shout. Her beauty lingered like perfume in an empty room, like music after the final note fades. Her collaborations with Herb Ritts, Helmut Newton, and again, Peter Lindbergh, captured not just a model, but a presence. She wasn't selling clothes. She was embodying moods, emotions, atmospheres. Tatjana was the kind of woman fashion rarely understood, less a mannequin, more a mirror. When you looked at her, you saw not only her face, but a reflection of yourself. Personal passions, beyond the runway, and yet, behind the curtain of luxury, her heart was elsewhere. With the horses she raised. With the stillness of nature. With the solitude she had carried since childhood. While others chased the bright chaos of New York and Milan, Tatjana returned, again and again, to California. Wide skies, soft light, the whisper of the ocean. She would say later, "I need nature. I need animals. They bring me peace." It was as if she lived in two worlds, one constructed of flashing bulbs and silk gowns, and another carved out of silence, where no one asked her to perform. Romances and rumors, but the industry never allowed silence for long. Speculations circled her like moths to a flame. Stories of musicians, of actors, of love affairs hidden in shadows. Some names whispered, others printed. Yet Tatjana rarely confirmed. She never gave them what they wanted. And so the mystery deepened. In an age when supermodels became celebrities, when tabloids hungered for drama, she offered none. Her refusal to perform, off the runway as much as on it, became a rebellion of its own. The 1990s shift, fame's harsh spotlight, but fashion is cruel. By the mid-1990s, the tide had turned. The era of the original supermodel began to fade. Designers wanted younger faces, sharper edges, louder personalities. Many of Tatjana's peers adapted, transforming themselves, grasping at new fame. Tatjana did not. She did not reinvent herself for the industry's appetite. She allowed herself to drift quietly, like a star receding from view. It wasn't failure. It was choice. A refusal to burn out for the sake of brightness. In her stillness, she remained a contradiction, the woman every camera wanted, and yet the woman who never seemed to need the camera at all. Controversies, the silent exit, the industry, restless and impatient, began to whisper. She was called difficult, too aloof, too detached. She didn't play the game, they said. She didn't sell herself enough. But maybe that was the point. Tatjana was not built for constant performance. She was not willing to barter her silence for headlines. Her retreat from the front lines of fashion wasn't a collapse, it was a refusal. A quiet rebellion against a machine that devours those who feed it. Life as a mother, a new role. In 2004, her life took a turn that no campaign, no runway, no editorial could rival. Her son, Jonah, was born. And with him came a new devotion, one that eclipsed fashion entirely. California became their sanctuary. Horses grazing in the fields, the ocean breathing against the shore, a child's laughter cutting through the silence. For Tatjana, motherhood was not a pause. It was a beginning. The industry may have mourned her absence, but she had chosen presence instead, presence for her child, for her animals, for herself. The quiet years, disappearing from the spotlight, the world saw her less. A scattered appearance in a magazine. A rare editorial, almost like a ghost returning for a moment before fading again. But she did not vanish entirely. Those who lived near her in California would recall a woman at peace with solitude, walking among her horses, riding in the open air, far from the flashbulbs that once defined her. In a culture obsessed with visibility, her absence became its own legend. Legacy in fashion, revered but misunderstood, designers never forgot her. Photographers spoke of her like a secret they were lucky enough to discover. Younger models studied her images as if searching for the hidden language in her gaze. She was not the loudest supermodel, not the most photographed, not the most scandalous. But she remained the most mysterious. In the mythology of the 1990s, she became a paradox, remembered for what she gave, and equally for what she withheld. Tatjana Patitz, the woman who proved that silence could be as powerful as spectacle. Later recognition, a gentle return. Now and then, she stepped back into the light. A quiet editorial. A retrospective shoot. A photograph that reminded the world she was still here, still luminous, still unlike anyone else. But these returns were never loud. They were whispers, gentle, fleeting. Tatjana did not seek the stage again. She allowed it to find her. Her presence in those later years felt almost otherworldly, as though she had crossed into a different rhythm, one slower than fashion could ever allow. The final chapter, Silent Farewell. In January 2023, news arrived that stunned the world of fashion. Tatjana Patitz had passed away. Breast cancer. A battle she had kept hidden. There had been no public announcement, no spectacle of suffering. Just silence, as always. The same silence she had carried her whole life, now extending into her departure. The world mourned not only the loss of a supermodel, but the loss of a rare kind of grace. Tributes and memories, photographers wept for their muse. Designers wrote of her elegance. Fellow supermodels remembered the calm she carried, the mystery in her gaze, the gentleness behind her quiet. The Peter Lindbergh Foundation released images of her, immortalized in black and white, writing, "She was the epitome of beauty and kindness." The tributes felt heavier than usual, not because she had been the most famous, but because she had been the most elusive. And now she was gone. Closing reflection. The vanishing star, Tatjana Patitz, was never the loudest, never the most photographed, never the headline-hungry star. And yet, she endures. Her legacy is not in the number of covers, nor in the chaos of fame. It is in the silence she protected, in the mystery she preserved, in the reminder that a woman does not need to bear everything to remain unforgettable. She was, and is, the vanishing star, disappearing into her own chosen quiet, yet illuminating everything she left behind.